Hey everybody, High Performance Life Architect Glenn Haddam here. I'm here with the Amplify Life podcast, and I have a special guest here today, Chris Natzke, who is one of the most genuine, potent, powerful, and peaceful persons I've met who can mess you up with his pinky. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up not being an 8th degree black belt, and why would you go that far, go to that level, not just in martial arts but also in business as a leadership coach? Why continue to push beyond what most of us relax into as the norm of mediocrity?
Right. Well, it's interesting. My martial art journey started when I was 10 years old. So back in the day, back in 1973, when I was 10, so you can do the math how old I was how old I am now. Martial arts was not something that you saw school on every street corner as you do today. It was very remote, but I was inspired by the TV show Kung Fu.
I love that show.
Chain Kane, and
it was supposed to be Bruce Lee, right?
It was supposed to be Bruce Lee, but he was too Chinese, is what the TV exec said.
Right.
And so anyway, I begged my mom to let me go to my first class, and she let me go, and I saw these people with these amazingly powerful movements, and I felt like I came home. And I started my training there. I just couldn't get enough of it. And about 3 years after that, I met a man who literally changed my life forever. In fact, he's still my instructor to this day. His name is Grandmaster J.K. Lee. And Grandmaster Lee had recently moved from South Korea. He had very little money in his pocket, very limited use of the English language, but he had this burning desire to transform lives through martial arts. And one of the first times I was in his class, I was seated in the corner of the room. My legs were spread wide. I was stretching out, getting ready for the class. And he walked onto the mat with this amazing power, this amazing presence. And he's surveying all the students, and pretty soon I realized he's looking at me. And before I could move a muscle, he sat down in front of me, and he put his right foot on the inside of one leg, his left foot on the inside of the other. He grabbed the ends of my belt, and with one push-pull, split me out to 180 degrees. So I learned two really important life lessons that morning. Number one is anyone can do the splits once, right? But the second thing is, and this is what was so life-changing about it, he looked me in the eyes and he said to me in his broken English, he said, "I will make you a champion. I will make you a champion." Now, when you're 13 years old, you think about the medals and the trophies and whatever. And I literally glided.
Or we think about the martial art versus the transformation that's going to occur within this art form.
Well, exactly. And so that's the thing is that I was thinking at that young age, it was just I was going to be a tournament champion. But as I began to really reflect on it, he was helping in setting the foundation to become what he would always call a champion in life, right? About using martial arts as a vehicle for self-expression and self-expansion. And the other thing that really came present for me, which is why I probably still stayed with it and I wanted to pass that forward, is I realized that he said, "I will make you a champion," which is what I heard with my ears. But what my heart heard was, "I believe in you. I believe in you." And so that, to me, even at a young age, martial arts was a vehicle for self-expansion, for development, empowerment, etc., versus just kicking and punching. Although it is really cool to be able to kick someone in the head. But the fact of the matter is, the journey of self-development, the journey of self-expansion, really for me started in that moment.
I've had a similar experience with Coach Rich Sandali, who's the godfather of the sport of jump rope, and I remember him saying the same thing: "I believe in you, and you could be a champion."
Right.
And you could see that potential, and that's what we do as coaches. We see the potential.
That's right.
And it's almost like permission to be great.
That's right, 100%. And the other thing for me, and you and I have had conversations about my background growing up. I grew up with an alcoholic father, so I didn't have. My dad was in the home, but he wasn't really there because he wasn't really able to give because he was, medicating himself with alcohol. So it was also the first time in my life I had a man in my instructor who I tremendously respected and grew to love, basically say, "Follow me." Or, you know what I'm saying? Just stay with me here. I can take you places. And that to me was such a gift that I really wanted to not only continue for my own personal development, but I also wanted to give that back.
And you've been blessed not just with a career with all these students, but early on you rose to a pretty high level of fame in the sport. I mean, you went pretty far.
I was fortunate in 1999. I was United States National Taekwondo Champion for the United States Taekwondo Union in Olympic style sparring. I didn't go to the Olympics, but Olympic style sparring for my age and my weight, and that had always been a dream, to do that. But again, I keep coming back to the fact of that's not what kept me in martial arts.
Right.
I wanted to achieve that goal for my own satisfaction, but I also wanted to use it as a metaphor and an example for my students. And quite honestly, right after they raised my hand in victory in '99, I knew I was complete with competition. I was done. I still wanted to train in martial arts, still wanted to teach, but I had that experience. That's not why I was there.
And how did that also translate to like playing? You played football for a number of years, so
I did.
Lettered what, 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Okay,
I went at Northwestern University.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was part of Dennis Green's first recruiting class. For those that recall, he was the I think the Bud Light commercial. They were who we thought they were when he was coaching for the Arizona Cardinals, and that was an interesting experience because my high school football experience was all about winning and very, very successful. I was a 3-year starter on varsity. We went 24-3, go to Northwestern, and am I now on the team that sets the longest losing streak in major college football history. So that, not that I'd want to experience that again, but it was a tremendous character builder. And then also to be on that team that then snapped the losing streak was also awesome. But it helped me appreciate how the essence and the hard work and just staying something and how you can bring people together as a team, which I think is a great gift to learn as a leader, of when you're dealing with those adverse situations, but continue to move through them together, how it can bring a team together. That was a marvelous experience for me.
And how would you say that winning has become redefined on the continuum of winning in your life with your raising your boys,
right.
and then in your leadership work, in the world?
Yeah.
How have you been led? Not necessarily you're resculpting it, but it redefining itself.
It does redefine itself because hey, I'd like to win as much as anybody, right? And in fact, it's interesting what I didn't share in my little origin story. There is in 1998, I took second at the national championships, and that defeat, I don't think I'm over it yet, right?
Okay.
So it's one of those things. So I'm a competitive guy,
Yeah.
And what I've learned is, and particularly teaching probably tens of thousands of students at this time in martial arts, is everybody has their own difficulties, their own challenges to move through, and victory can be defined by them overcoming those challenges, not necessarily getting the gold medal put around their neck.
Mm-hmm.
Although that's a great experience and it's a great thing to strive for. But I've seen too many students become transformed through the martial arts that weren't the best athletes. They weren't the ones that were going to be the great champions, but they were the ones that are going to become great human beings as a result of the transformation that happened in their martial art training.
So what would be your advice for like a youngster embarking on, since there's so many different available formats for martial arts nowadays, with someone like Sebastian?
I always tell people, and my martial art background is in Taekwondo originally, right? And which is great martial art. But I've also trained in various martial arts throughout my career. It's not the martial art as much as it is the instructor.
Okay.
So Master Lee could have been a Shotokan Karate, he could have been a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor, whatever, but he had a way of connecting with me as a human being that saw my potential and had this beautiful balance of, well, I'll call it love, because he could be very strong and he could really train us hard, but at the same time he had a real tenderness to him. And that to me was a great example of real powerful masculinity as well. So what I would say to anybody, and particularly if parents are listening to this, is go to a place where you feel that your child is going to get really good martial art physical training, but also good character development training. And someone who's using the martial arts as a vehicle for them to grow as human beings, not just as athletes or as fighters.
Yeah, and then you work with a lot of young men as well as young women.
Yeah.
And so when you look at in our world today, there's some confusion around healthy masculinity, healthy feminine, and those things live in all of us, both of us, both
Correct.
of us. What might be your advice, for young women as well?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I think that there are tenets within the martial arts that impact whether you're a male or a female. But I think that the level of empowerment that a young woman can feel is tremendous. And I've trained many women and young girls and women that have got their black belts with me. And what's so amazing is, and I think this works for men as well and boys, is to have that sense of power inside of you, that you have this confidence, but it's a quiet confidence. It's something you feel. It doesn't have to be, clanging the cymbals, right?
Doesn't mean to be bombastic.
No, not at all. It's a centered empowerment that you would have. People, and then also with youth is helping them understand to feel comfortable enough about themselves to set healthy boundaries. Because there's a lot of things out there with youth that get them astray, but be able to feel good about themselves where they can say yes to the positive things and no to the negative things.
So learning how to work with even the subtlest forms of those, not necessarily in the most abrasive form in the martial art, but the martial art carries out into regular life.
Yeah, and I mean, the most profound martial artists that I've ever met in my half-century career, the ones that are probably the most dangerous individuals you see, are some of the most calm and engaging and kind people. In fact, one of the things we do within our organization here in Denver is, in order to receive your black belt in the 4 months prior to getting your black belt, they have a black belt candidate program that they have to go through. They have to do 400 random acts of kindness. Okay, and now I misspoke a little bit. The younger kids have to do only 300, but they have to do 100 home chores. Parents love me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And what's the name of your organization?
The Colorado Alliance of Martial Arts. And so, but what we've done in the last 15 years is we've created over 250,000 random acts of kindness. And in part of that training, they also have to do what we call empathy training. They have to spend a 24-hour period being blind or deaf mute or in a wheelchair, so they understand empathy. And they also have to go through a 90-minute suicide prevention training. So what we're attempting to do is use martial arts again as that metaphor, but helping them be strong, competent, empowered young people, but also people that know that, to those to whom much is given, much is expected, be able to take that, what they've learned, and give that back into their society, into their community.
Love it. Now, when you're coaching adults and you're coaching on leadership, I'm assuming you're coming across where that part of integrity within the individual, even though they're coming to you for particular issues and wanting to work on specific behavioral modification, there's something going on at the core that was missing the appropriate level of attention early on. Absolutely. And so you're almost having to play, I guess, a game of catch up.
Yeah, in some ways, what I always tell my clients when I'm having my initial conversation with them, I want to work on this, I want to work on that, and I say, that's great, let's choose one thing, but here's what I found, is how most of us do anything is how we do everything. So if there's a core thing that's giving you problems in your life, there's a good chance you're also experiencing in this silo, and in this silo, and in this silo. Not always the case, but oftentimes. And if you can move through what's been holding you back in that one area, you'll see how it applies to other areas. And I think what's so important is, and it's become a buzzword anymore, but I think it is important for us as leaders is to have that sense of vulnerability, a sense of empowerment, but also to be able to say, hey, I messed up there. I'm going to take accountability for that. And to also see the best in the people that we serve, the people that we're leading. One of the greatest attributes that I was ever brought into concepts is not necessarily holding people accountable, but holding them capable. And the distinction is this: accountability is, hey, you said you're going to do this, you got to do this, right? It can be a little disparaging. Holding someone capable is, Glenn, you said you want to do this, and that's what I see for you too, and I see your ability to be great within that. I'm holding you to that standard. It may be semantics, but what it does is it switches. Now someone is going, wow, my coach, the leader that I'm working with, is on my side to bring me to my greatness, not trying to bludgeon me there, but to hold me and empower me there.
Yeah, so there's different styles that you found that don't work so well with folks, but really it's, to my detriment, I see the glass full in people.
Yeah.
I really see the potential in someone. A lot of times we're told to look at, the other half of the glass, that's maybe, is what's getting in the way.
Right.
And we investigate. It's always good to investigate
Sure.
what gets in the way. At the same time, there's a certain percentage of attention that needs to go to the possibility where a lot of those areas you're trying to fix will fall off.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that when we focus on what we want to create, there's a whole different rule book.
That's right.
And what's maybe a highlight of an experience you've had with someone that's come in where they're operating on that side of the equation of the faults and the things that they're beating themselves up on.
Yeah.
And other people are clearly beating them up on that as well
Sure.
too. So
Sure.
the world is telling them, hey, you're not good enough in these ways, and they're able to overcome that by a reframe.
Right. Well, martial arts is a great metaphor for that. I'm going to use an example of a child. You can obviously be translated into adults as well. But when I had my martial arts school, we had a ton of ADHD kids that would come to us, attention deficit disorder.
Yep.
Primarily, they were boys, and I think I'm hearing the studies now say that there are just as many girls dealing with that too. They just express differently, so that it's not as aware and when people are looking at it. But you'd have a child that would come in with, say, ADHD that was, you could tell that their self-image was tremendously negatively impacted because all they ever heard was no. You're misbehaving, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Not what to do, but what's wrong.
Right, and so what we would do is we would have a strategy in the school is we would say, okay, we're gonna catch them doing things right today. Wow, Jimmy, I love how you're standing at attention right now. That's fantastic, give me a high five.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, wow, I get
Standing
attention.
taller.
Standing tall, right? And and hey, Jimmy, I'll tell you what, today we're gonna be working on the turning back kick. You've got a great turning back kick. Could you demonstrate with me tonight? When we go in front, yes sir, right? And so we're building that, and then we take it to the parents, because then we would say, Mr. Jones, can I speak to you please? And you could just see, oh my God, here we go, my kid screwed up again. I'm gonna hear it and go, you know what, Jimmy did a fantastic job. He was a super leader in class today. All of a sudden dad's going, yeah, that's my boy, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, and it doesn't mean that if a student wasn't messing up, or a coaching client for that matter, that you don't have to have, hey, we need to have a discussion about this. It's not being Pollyannish, but it is looking for the good and holding them capable to that standard.
You think in relationships, here's what we're dealing with, even adult relationships, men and women, where here's where I'm at, here's where I ideally want to get to, and then the suffering game begins. What keeps you up late at night is I'm struggling to get this new dream reality in place, and what if we could stand tall and have everyone reflecting what's good? Just like in the morning I practice a gratitude rehearsal, and all of a sudden I create this energy of, oh my gosh, I see more things I'm grateful for.
Right.
And then that, of course, is the attractor beam for more things to come in. Not when you're collapsed to, I can't seem to fix this and get over this.
Yes.
So maybe the medicine, when folks are getting depressed and getting spun out, is to take the focus and focus on what's good.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I'm thinking as you're sharing that, one of my favorite authors is Byron Katie.
Yep.
Whose book is Loving What Is,
Loving
right?
What Is. It's a great book.
A great
If
book.
you haven't read it, definitely
read
read that book. It'll be a game changer.
She talks about the idea of loving what is, loving right where we're at. And, I had a coach tell me one time that acceptance is the first, step in transformation. You have to accept where you're at. But she has a line in that book. It goes something like, when I fight with reality, I always lose, but only 100% of the time, right? So if we're at a place and we're at point A and we're going to go to point B, it doesn't mean that we take our eye off of that, we don't aspire to that, but we don't get there by going, I really hate where I'm at today.
Do you think people believe that they have to, there's a saying, don't beat the willing horse. You have to taskmaster yourself.
I think there's...
you can't be content in order to achieve.
Right. And I think that and I've experienced this myself, is I think there's a fear that if I am content where I'm at, I won't have the impetus to change.
Right.
But I think my experience is when you start loving what is and start loving who you are, then you want to express positively.
And you get to go do this thing versus you need to do it.
Yeah. Well,
and it's a totally different energy.
I'll tell you what, I have a whole story I speak about, and it might be a little different context, but I got to a point in my life where I was a single dad. And I'd been together with my wife for 26 years. We had 2 great sons together, and we separated, we divorced, and now I'm a single dad to our 13-year-old, 14 maybe at the time, and because she's in Hawaii. And so I'm getting a little crabby because being a single dad was a lot to take on. And I'm getting him up in the morning, I'm getting him to school, I'm picking him up, I'm taking him to his job, I'm taking him on his little dates, and it's kind of crimping my style, so to speak, right? So I'm on the phone with a buddy one day, another martial arts instructor, and I'm picking Jason up from high school, and I'm in the parking lot, and I'm on the phone with my buddy going, Tom, I'm being a chauffeur everywhere, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. And he listens to me, and then he says, Chris, I want you to think about something. He goes, you don't have to pick your son up from school. You get to pick him up from school.
Change everything.
Total reframe. And I think it's like when we have something we want to aspire to, it's not that we don't have to do that. We get to do that.
Right.
What a great expression of our life when we get to move towards something. We get to play this game of life in order to aspire to something that's what we will think will be better than we are today. Yeah. But not putting down where we are today. That's a interesting balance.
Yeah, some of you know I'm going to go do the Great World Race, so I leave on the 10th of next month, and I have to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, or I get to go on an adventure that few get to. I get to really knock out that bucket list. Yeah. And how lucky am I?
Exactly.
Exactly. And one of my coaches and friends said, look up. Look up and enjoy the adventure. Don't just look at your feet in front of you.
That's
checking the boxes in life. Look around the surroundings that are changing and that are there to pour light on you. I got the bright light in my eyes here today, and it's a blessing because we're heading into winter here.
That's right.
So it might be a little bit of a glare today, but it's going to be like dark and gray at some point here.
Exactly.
And cold, and we're sitting on a gorgeous rooftop in Cherry Creek, Denver today.
That's right.
Well, how might they find you down here in Denver?
Yeah, absolutely.
Might be
go to my website, chrisnatzke.com. That's CHRIS, N as in Navy, ATZ as in zebra, KE.com, chrisnatzke.com. Email Chris at chrisnatzke.com. And check out, I've got speaking programs, I've got coaching programs, and all that kind of stuff as well. So
this guy is the man. So, but more than that, you're getting an opportunity to be with a spirit that will reflect to you your potential. Have a good one.